Just the way it goes. Just the way it goes. Degrees.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Grateful Ducks podcast. I'm your host, Brew Hand Luke. Today is Wednesday, January 31st, 2024. The last time I talked to everybody was the night of the national championship game, which Michigan was victorious over Washington. Since then, recent news, Jim Harbaugh has gone to the NFL and is now the head coach of the San Diego Chargers. Recent conversations I've had with people around has been, how does this impact the Big Ten? So just really quickly, I don't know that it impacts the Big Ten a whole lot with Jim Harbaugh leaving for the NFL. He's taking his defensive coordinator with him. And Sharon Moore was quickly named the new head coach. And a lot of the Michigan players, if they did not leave for the NFL, I would anticipate have not or will not be in the transfer portal. They will lose a lot of players to the NFL and to graduation. And with Oregon and USC and Washington joining the Big Ten on top of the other teams like Ohio State and Penn State, they're going to have their work cut out for them, as well as their game against Texas in the non-conference slate. So there's going to be a lot going on there. The other aspect was there is a 5-star recruit out of Idaho, Gatlin Bear, who decommitted from Boise State in December. He's expected to make his decision next week at the February signing day. And his decision has been down to Oregon and Michigan. And after Jim Harbaugh left, it appears that all signs point to him joining Coach Lanning in an absolutely loaded wide receiver room in Oregon, which would be outstanding. Really looking forward to the Big Ten next year, adding these new teams and seeing how things all shake out. I think Oregon versus Ohio State has the potential to be the game of the year, and they might face each other again in the Big Ten championship game and potentially even in the college football playoff with the expanded playoffs. We'll see how it all goes. I could have done a whole preseason too early top 25. I'm not going to do that for you today because we've got a guest that we're going to bring on here in just a second. So if you've been tuning in on Twitter, we will bring him on here in just a second. I'll do an intro once I find the sound bit here. Where we got it? There we go. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to bring on the show a guy that picked up and left his job in 2023. And then he lived out his dream of going on this road trip all across the country. He went from college football game to college football game and went to over 60 games this entire season. Please welcome to the stage, Rodger Sherman, everybody. Now, if I could find the way to stop this sound.
Keep it going. No, that was
there we go.
Yeah. I've never had entrance music before. That kicked out.
There we go. There we go.
What is that? Just like generic, like cool guy walking down the street music? Like, is that like a 70s cop thing, or where'd you get that from?
That was the People's Court intro, and I just found it.
I was never a People's Court guy. I missed that one. So, but that was awesome. Please,
it's a banger.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I had a picture up here somewhere. Let's see. There it goes.
Like a band to have that as their fight song. Like, I'd like to hear like a college football marching band play that. Yeah, that was me outside the national championship game. What did the Ducks fans do during that national championship game? Root for Washington or root for Michigan? I mean,
Oh, all that was all in on Michigan. If you're a Duck fan rooting for Washington, it was a little weird. Like you wanted to see them do well and make the national championship game because it's good for the Pac-12. But goddamn, you can't root for them in that that moment, in that situation. It's bizarre. I mean,
I mean, you don't you still care about things that are good for the Pac-12, or like it was an all Big Ten title game
it
technically.
was a Big Ten SEC challenge was what I was referring to the playoff as, and
Yeah,
that was a fun one. They actually got it. They got it right without Florida State in there, unfortunately. But yeah, when it all was said and done, they got two good semifinal games, and then Michigan showed that in the end they were the best team there. So
yeah. It was funny hearing you talk about like Michigan coaching situation. I'm like, why is Oregon fan talking about that? And then I was like, oh yeah, that's a conference game from now on. It's
yeah,
going to take
that's
me a few decades for that to click in.
living in the Chicagoland area specifically. I'm very excited about Oregon being in the Big Ten because I can travel and take a lot shorter of a road trip to go watch them. Like last year, I went to Eugene for the USC game. Next year, I plan on going to Madison up in November to watch them play in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it
So
is. There is kind of a nice novelty there with you get as someone who clearly enjoys going to college football stadiums, you are going to get to go to new ones.
yeah,
Uh, you're going to get to go to Ryan Fields probably at some point up in Evanston, Illinois.
yeah.
Um,
What are your thoughts on that? The new
um,
Ryan Field Stadium. You're a Northwestern guy.
oh, I mean, it's I I'm attached to the bad thing that's going away.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
like they're going to make it into a beautiful new shining uh, like gorgeous futuristic stadium, but I kind of liked this trashy stadium that everyone made fun of. I do think they're getting rid of some of the cool architectural parts of it, but for the most part, it's just a weird set of concrete bleachers
Hmm.
that I love very passionately. That is now going to be replaced by like an actual like like NFL style stadium, and it's
Yeah.
very confusing because I don't know why Northwestern exactly needs one.
So would you say that like you felt like the Ryan Field was a dump, but it was your dump? Like you embraced it, you enjoyed it. It was just it was home for you.
It was our dump, and depending on the day, also the dump of several tens of thousands of fans of Wisconsin or Ohio State or Michigan or whatever other team we were playing against. Um, so yeah, no, I'm not sure how many Oregon fans there are in the Chicago area, but whenever that game happens, you will have quite a pleasant experience
Oh yeah, it's
attending a game in Evanston, Illinois. There will be plenty of your friends there. There will not be a whole ton of opposition. What I do like, and this is smart, is they are making it smaller. I think the its expected capacity is like 35,000, something like that,
okay.
um, to make it a little bit more of a home field advantage. When we have fewer seats for visitors, there will be fewer visiting fans. I'm okay with the downsize every once in a while. If you have too much space, you don't need that guest bedroom. You'd prefer to just have a lovely two-bedroom apartment. That's the right move for you. That's what Northwestern's doing.
Yeah, that smaller can be better sometimes, and maybe if they get a big crowd in there for a game, it could get. I got a feeling it'll be pretty loud the way it looks like it's set up. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so that's awesome. So, was that how you became a college football fan? Was by going to Northwestern? Like, what's the backstory behind your college football fandom?
Yeah, I'm a New Yorker, and there's not a lot of college football in New York. There's literally none from the FBS level. The closest team is Army or Rutgers. Um, so yeah, I wasn't a college football fan growing up, and yeah, I went to Northwestern, and what I the way I describe it is like it was really fun to go to the games and see all these Big Ten teams up close, but I could also see that the fans of the other teams were having a great time and seemed to have more of a atmosphere, and they brought energy. And as fun as it was to drink a lot with my friends and go to the games for free, there we didn't bring the energy the way the fans of other schools did. And I saw that there was something out there that I needed to access, that I needed to go to Wisconsin or Michigan and see how fans there did it at their place. So that's sort of my origin story, my supervillain origin story. By the way, I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm currently watching. I'm trying to talk to Brew Hand Luke as much as I can, but also Northwestern is up 3 points on Purdue with 6 minutes left. Number 2 ranked Purdue. Get ready for Big Ten basketball, folks. It's a great conference. Well, now it's time. But if you see me like angrily or excitedly gesticulating or screaming stuff, that's what's happening. There's a game on over there.
I love it. Just locked into the college game, no matter what. It's outstanding. So when you mentioned Northwestern, when you were there, like who was the big name players for the team when you were at Northwestern?
Oof. Who ended up going? Not a lot of like NFL-ish guys on those teams. The defensive star was the quarterback. Actually, I would say the most prominent person from those teams, like now that we're thinking about it, was my sophomore year. The quarterback was Mike Kafka.
Oh, yeah.
Who went on to a brief NFL career and is currently the offensive coordinator for the Giants. He was Patrick Mahomes' quarterback coach for the Chiefs for a while. So not who made it to the NFL off of those rosters. Tough to find guys, but they had a winning record every year I was there. We had a handful of players drafted, but like not a ton of household names. I think I'm sticking with we had an NFL offensive coordinator as my
That's good though.
The most prominent person.
He's a no name. I was actually a little surprised that they just went and hired the interim coach right off the bat and didn't call somebody like Mike Kafka to give him an interview.
I think we missed the boat on that. He was a graduate assistant or an offensive assistant like 5 or 6 years ago. Or right before he went to the Chiefs. And then it became very clear that he was like too big a deal in the NFL coaching scene and would probably not consider coming back to Northwestern because he's like in line to be an NFL head coach, which is like kind of a bigger deal. But I think we as awesome a job as he seems to be doing, we got former North Dakota State coordinator David Braun, and he won a lot of Coach of the Year awards, and certainly so this year.
He did a phenomenal job this year. I was very happy to see that for a program that's got to basically start from scratch now to rebuild their entire brand, to get a guy in that everybody's like, yeah, he's never met a head coach. We'll see how it goes. And it's like, wow, he killed it. So
and the weird thing is like I sort of didn't see any of it because I was out driving everywhere. I've watched so many Northwestern football games. And this year I saw them play one game, and it was against Rutgers, and they almost got shut out. They lost 21-7. They scored a touchdown with like a minute left. And I was like, wow, this team sucks. This team stinks. Like, I'm glad I'm not watching them all season. And then I turn around and they're have a winning record. They're making a bowl game. They're winning a bowl game against Utah, which is a really good team. I like it. It came out of nowhere, and like they deserve all the credit for making that turnaround happen. But the coaching staff and the players who stuck around despite all the weird things happening. Like what a strange thing. I can't tell you how it happened because I wasn't actually watching. I was driving to Oregon.
Yeah, that was just probably the most unexpected, one of the most unexpected stories from this year's college football season. But Speaking of that, you ready to just let it rip with some questions here? Because I got a whole bunch of stuff. I want to
Let's
hear
go.
all the stories. So like we talked about your college football history and being a passionate fan. Like you had a pretty sweet job. Like you worked for the Ringer, and then you decided, okay, I'm gonna fulfill a dream of mine and drive across the country and go to as many college football games as I possibly can. Like, how long had you been planning this? Like, what was the process of all that?
It was an idea I came up with last year, like 2022 college football season. I started thinking about it, and what there was a guy who did it last year. His name is Ben Chase. He
Mhm.
drove to 77 games, and I saw him on TV, and I was like, "Wow, I should give that a try." Ran it by my wife. Started looking at the um, started looking at the logistics and how much does a rental car cost and how much money would I be losing by leaving my job and et cetera, et cetera. Can I pay rent? And, you know, I would say I really got serious about it like in the summer, like after um, probably I would write about football through the Super Bowl and then hop on and write about March Madness through April. Um, so probably after that, I started really thinking, how do I make this work? What games would I go to? The finances were not the best part of it. It costs a lot of money to drive across the country and go to college football games.
Yeah, that I mean, you took a risk to fulfill a dream, and like there's
Yeah,
it's and the fact that like you mentioned that you had to run it by your wife and she was okay with it. God bless her. That is like
she's a champ.
holy cow. That is legendary right there.
Yeah, she's like getting a doctorate right now. So, and we don't have kids yet. So, if there was ever a time for us to do it, for me to do this, it was right now. I am not
Okay.
doing this again. I will definitely not do it if we have kids. I had one shot, one opportunity. Don't let it slip, and I took it.
Um that's outstanding. So like you're on the road, you're driving. What point of the drive was like your longest stretch of the driving time?
Um, uh, there's a couple ways you can define that question. um, the longest drive I did in one day was probably about 15, 16 hours from Virginia Tech to Northwest Iowa. Um, that was the longest drive in one day. The longest nonstop segment of driving was when I went from uh, Bowling Green, Toledo, in Northwest Ohio on a Tuesday night and drove until I was in Pullman, Washington for Washington State, Colorado on Friday night. That was pretty much, uh, 10 hours a day for 3 days to make it from the Midwest to the West. But I did it and made it in time for kickoff by several hours, actually. It wasn't so hard, break it up into 3 days,
Mhm.
like it was like, well, I don't have a job, so my job is driving. 10 hours per day is more than I would like to work, but it's doable. Um, so yeah, I pulled it off. That was not. Um, I wasn't able to go to as many games that week because I prioritized. I was trying to. I did the last month or so of the regular season out on the West Coast.
Mhm.
People kept telling me all the season, why aren't you going to the Pac-12 games? What about Oregon? What about Washington? What about all these places? And I was like, I'm driving. It's hard to get there. I can't just drive there. It's logistically difficult. There are mountain ranges and time zones in between me and there. So then in November, I started driving west. I went to Washington State. I went to Montana. I went to Eugene and Seattle, and then I saw Pac-12 championship game. So I got my Pac-12 share out of the way, I think.
So Bologna here says he knows a tire guy. We'll get back to that in a little bit because we'll talk about the rental car experience in a little bit. But it was a rental car the whole way. Is that correct?
Yeah, I live in New York. I don't own a car. I take the subway most places or walk. But I typically walk to like go get groceries or
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. Um, Cars don't really come up here a lot, but I feel like I proved that New Yorkers know how to drive. I didn't get into any accidents. I didn't get any tickets. I made it all the way across the country. So yeah, I took out a rental car, and basically the way it works is um, the longer your rental is, the less it costs per day. Like I think once you get over a month, they drop you down to like a monthly rate.
Okay.
So it actually wasn't that bad. It was like $22 a day plus insurance, which I paid. This is Northwestern 30
There we go.
minutes to go. Uh, yeah, so it wasn't that bad. I don't need tires, but I'm sure that the rental car company needs them right now. I'm sure they got that car back and were like, oh my God, there's no treads left on these.
So did when you go into the rental car store, did you have to
Mhm.
explain to them your story? Like, yeah, I'm going to be on the road going to college football games, or was it just kind of like,
I didn't have to.
okay,
Like they don't demand your name and occupation and stuff. They pretty much,
yeah,
surprisingly enough, they just say, yeah, sure, you can have the car. Um, but uh, I ended up going to this rental car place a couple times because they made me return the car a few times. Like they made me swap it out. So I ended up talking to the woman who worked there, and I went there three times, and she was there each of the first three times. And we talked a little bit about why I kept on showing up with like massive amounts of luggage and swapping out cars. Um, and the third time I was there, she like went into another. I had to stay there like several hours. Like they did an oil change on the car or something like that, and they were trying to find me a new car. And I was just sitting in this rental car office in Nashville, Tennessee for several hours. And the woman, while I was sitting there, the employee, she like went into another room and she took like a job interview for another company. And we got to talking about how she wanted to like like she was hoping to not, get a different job. And then the next time I was back, he wasn't there. So I hope she got, I hope she got the job. Like
oh my god,
I said, I kind of hope I don't see you again the next time I'm here. Good luck with everything. And then she wasn't there. It was like I compared it to that scene in Good Will Hunting where Ben
oh my
Affleck always hopes that Matt Damon isn't going to be there the next time. But yeah, they were definitely confused. And the last time I brought it back, the person was like, they check your mileage.
okay.
Uh, and she was like, she the new employee did like a big double take, like 60. What? It was 30,000 miles more than when I took it out.
Oh, that is outstanding. So you've got your rental car and you're driving potentially sometimes 10 to 15 hours, or like you said, you're going all the way out to the West Coast. What was your playlist like? Like what did you have music? Was it podcasts, a little bit of mix of everything? Like what's on your radio or what's on your iPhone, whatever?
This is a common question.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of people suggested audiobooks to me, but I didn't go that route. I'm
Okay.
not an audiobook guy. Um, the car had Sirius XM radio in it. So that like did pretty well for me. Like if I was just listening to like terrestrial radio, over the air, like driving around that much, you'd lose a lot of signals.
Yeah.
You go in between markets and stuff. So I was pretty much just flipping channels, like random genre to random genre. Um, like every couple hours, just like um, completely different musical style, like every few hours. I also tried to listen to college football podcasts because I felt like I wasn't actually seeing any college. Like I was.
Sure.
How do I explain this? Like my job at the Ringer was to watch all of the sports,
Yep.
and then here I was watching exactly one game per Saturday, and I was like, I got to stay in touch with the sports, so I would listen to uh, rotation of college football podcasts to actually know what was going on outside of the games I was seeing. And I was always like, every time they talked about one of my games, I was like, there, I was there. That's the thing that I saw. And otherwise, I would have just had no idea what was happening.
Sure. Yeah, that's and I'm sure like I don't know how it is for you, but for me when I put on a podcast in the car, I could just keep driving and it passes the time a lot more for me than it does listening to music. I don't know how
The,
that felt for you, but
the
it was
best thing is
outstanding.
when like I got to like talk to someone, like if I was talking to my wife on the phone or like talking to like uh, you know doing an interview like for like someone's like doing what you're doing, like, hey,
Yeah.
do you want to come on my podcast? I was like, yes, call me while I'm driving between Indiana and Kentucky, and uh, that would be great because for some reason I'm like better at focusing on the road when
Sure.
like I'm talking to someone that occupies exactly enough of my brain to make the road seem interesting for the calls.
So
That's
you
the best audio
you
for sure.
mentioned doing the podcast. Have you been like just on the clock 24/7 like now that you're done like doing all these different podcasts here in the stores, which
Oh,
is outstanding. Like
um, no, I'm relaxing, but
yeah,
I'm happy to hang out and talk about it with people.
sure.
Um, and I've been trying to sleep, man. I've been trying to sleep.
Sure.
I'm trying to get back going into like regular life going forward. But no, I definitely needed some. There were some days when this was like the only work I did. Like, so someone wants me to be on a podcast. Sure, yeah. Doesn't require. It requires a lot less preparation on my end
Mhm.
because you're just asking me about what I did, whereas you had to come up with a list of questions.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I mean it kind of comes naturally, and
It was
obviously,
easy, yeah.
I mean talking college football, it's one of those things where I saw something on Twitter today. It was like list 5 things you could talk about forever or whatever, and like what first thing I said was college football. Like it's right
Well,
off the
yeah,
bat for me.
that used to be number one for me, and now it's gas station food.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Just the gas station, the lodging, and like the bathroom experiences on the road. Like what kind of stories you have about like just sleeping and traveling and like having to like go and like shower or clean up. Like my
Yeah,
understanding, like were you sleeping in your car? Were you in the hotels? Like how'd that all go down?
I slept in my car probably like 6 or 7 times. I was not a frequent. I only did that out of necessity. Like if
Okay.
I really like, I have 18 hours between the end of this game and the other game, and there's like 15 hours of driving. That would be like the only reason I would stay in the car. Like most nights, I would get a hotel. I had a lot of hotel points left over from my time as a sports writer.
Nice.
Um, I definitely have racked up some more over the course of the trip. Um, Stayed in some pretty bad motels. Um, they can get pretty dicey
Oh,
if
sure.
you're trying. And my priority was to save money. Sometimes you feel dirtier after showering. Um, uh, but yeah, the car sleep. Um, I did get pretty comfortable with it. Just pop the seat as far back as it goes and get 3 or 4 hours. And the only issue was like I didn't want to like freeze to death in the car.
Hmm.
So like when I was like driving through like Montana and the Dakotas and stuff, I wasn't trying to stay overnight behind a wheel when it was like 20 degrees out. So I think I, all along I prioritized like not dying.
Yeah. That's priority number one. Make sure you don't die. That's definitely that should be high up on the list always. So let's get to some actual game day experiences. Like from all the stadiums you went to, what was your like your top three or your favorites that stood out?
Ooh, top three. I've been saying LSU number one.
Okay.
LS, LSU, great people, great food. Um, my dog wants to go out if you hear some background sad noises. But she's going to have to wait for the end of the podcast and the end of the basketball game simultaneously. Northwestern tie game, 37 seconds left.
Let's go.
I hate to do this to you, but I thought Washington Stadium was beautiful up in Seattle.
It is pretty beautiful.
It was beautiful. I'm sorry. Number three. Wow. So I still feel like I need to go to a lot more SEC stadiums.
Okay.
I'm gonna take the not breaking any news here. Penn State. I saw a whiteout at Penn State.
Oh, that is awesome.
Incredible.
Mhm.
And just the sheer size of the stadium and like the fan, like the oh God, come on, relax. Just the way everyone was together and everything was unbelievable.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's on my list is Penn State going to a whiteout game. Funny you mentioned LSU. I've got it penciled in right now to go to Ole Miss at LSU next October.
That's yep. Do it.
So,
Don't and find a good tailgate. Get there at as early as you can.
okay.
And don't and probably you'll be like, oh, if I get there a few hours early, it'll be fine. They're out there all day. They're out there in the
Nice.
morning. They do it right. They do it different. Just an overwhelming place. Like you
Mhm.
get really the humidity, the swampiness, the food, if it's a night game, which they don't release kickoff times until 6 days before, as I found out.
Mhm.
So they certainly don't have the kickoff times now in January 2023 or 2024. But I hope that's a night game for you.
So when you mentioned that about the kickoff times, was there any point like not knowing what time the kickoff was for a game and you're already on the road and you're like, oh shit, I don't know if I'm gonna make it now. Like you were like stressed, like, oh man, what if I don't make it?
I only missed a couple of kickoffs along the way.
Okay.
I would say the closest call that I ended up being fined for was um, so I took one plane ride on the trip, which was the BYU TV people. They have their own TV station. They produce their own pregame show. They flew me out to appear on the BYU pregame show
Oh sweet.
ahead of their game against Cincinnati. They won. It was a night game. It was great. That game was on a Friday, and I said, after that, I want to go to see Colorado play USC because this was when Colorado was 4-1,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 4-0 at the time. So I just had my fingers crossed, don't put the game at 10 a.m. Of course, they put the game at 10 a.m. Clock's winding down, tie ball game. Northwestern has the ball. 7, 6. Oh, okay. Stoppage in play.
There you go.
Of course, Fox put the game at 10 a.m. Big noon kickoff. It's not even noon in Mountain Time Zone. So what I did was I got a flight from Salt Lake City to Denver at like 5 a.m. or something.
Oh man.
I woke up at something like 3 or 4, but I overslept by a little bit and got to the airport like 35 minutes before the flight took off. Like there's no one in the airport. It's 5 a.m. It was in the far terminal. I scrambled and running. It was a tiny plane just jumping over the Rockies from Utah to Colorado. And
Sure.
I was the last person on the plane and I was sweaty and it was very Brad.
Uh, oh boy. Rodger was telling a story, and I think we got a black screen. It looks like he's still there. We're just gonna wing it here. And he was telling a story about he was flying over in a plane, and I think I could hear. Got some background noise there. Let's see if I try this, and then add him back. There we go. I was about to make up. I was about to improv the rest of the story there and just see how it matched up. But you're back, so go ahead.
Anyway, person next to me seemed very disappointed. I was very sweaty. Flight arrived in Denver. Denver Airport is not near Boulder, Colorado. Denver Airport is not near Denver. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's way off in the fields. So I'm like, I didn't have my trusty rental car. The game is at 10 a.m. The flight landed at 6 or 7. I have to go all the way across the city of Denver. I was like, this Uber ride is going to cost me like $70, $80. Luckily, so like one of my followers was dropping his wife off at the airport an hour after my flight landed. He tells his wife, is it okay if we go to the airport an hour earlier to pick up this guy from the internet? She says yes for some reason. He picks me up. He drives me over. I made it about an hour before kickoff to Boulder, Colorado.
Nice.
And that was probably the last time that people were excited about Colorado.
Yeah, they
so I thought I made it at that exact moment.
Yeah, then the wheels came off in a hurry for Colorado football, which, I mean, it was a little bit to be expected. I don't know how you felt about their season, how it was playing. I can't believe they actually won 5 games all season.
It was like everybody overreacted to every part of it, you know?
Yep.
People overreacted to them being 4-0, and people overreacted to them being 4-8, you know? It's like that. If you said at the beginning of the year this team goes 4-8, everyone would be like, okay, great, that's the perfectly normal thing to happen. But the way it played out just maximized everybody getting mad.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
That was pretty hysterical.
That's what college football is all about.
That's right. So something that entertained me at one point is you had the giant Wyoming cowboy hat on, and you were doing like your own little rave in the car to like stay awake and keep yourself entertained. Like, were there any other like random souvenirs that you picked up that you thought were like, just, I gotta have this, and like that you brought home with you, and you're like, this is one of the best memories? Like, what was some of your favorite random, like, I don't know, souvenirs, I guess you'd call them?
Yeah. So the foam cowboy hat is definitely number one on the list.
Okay.
I just found that on the ground, and the person behind me was not happy that I had a foam cowboy hat on. I took it off for most of the game out of courtesy. Probably the sappy answer is that I would get postcards everywhere I went and send them to my wife.
Okay.
Starting in the late November. I should have started doing that earlier, but now we have dozens and dozens of postcards, and I got a lot of magnets and stuff like that. But also, I bought this huge cooler, so I could have things to drink, non-alcoholic things to drink while I was on the road. Just a gigantic, massive cooler. And now I have it's kind of just in my apartment. We don't really have space for it or anything. And there's just a gigantic, I bought it from Costco. I buy everything from Costco. Costco is my home away from home while I was on the road.
Sure.
So it's obviously enormous. It probably fits, several cases of beer, and several, but it's not really practical. A, from a cooler perspective, it's too large to keep things cold, and B, from my New York City apartment perspective. So that's what I'm going with for that answer.
Nice. The gigantic cooler. I love it because I mean you needed something during that whole time when you don't know like
Big iced tea guy out there. I guess it's
okay.
not iced tea, but it was green tea. Like it's not iced because it didn't have ice inside of it. But that was my go-to move out there.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna open up the comments for questions quite yet, but if anybody is listening and does have a question for Rodger, now would be a good time to like just post a question in the chat, and like when we're starting to
Sure
wrap
thing. Let's
up,
go.
I'll put them on the screen if you have any questions. Don't be shy about it. If you don't have any questions, that's also totally fine. So another big thing that I was kind of tuned into, but not fully tuned into, was you had an entire Goodyear blimp experience. Like,
Yeah, they they put me in the blimp, which is not usual. They don't normally have fans inside of the blimp.
so how did that all play out? Like, was this like a thing in the making for years? Like, what's the story behind that one?
Um, the story about it is, um, it kind of is actually. The easy way to do it is that like I was tweeting about the blimp and like the Goodyear blimp people saw it, but the longer backstory is that several years ago I badmouthed the Goodyear blimp in an article, and me and the Goodyear blimp had like a kind of joking online beef with each other.
Nice.
And then I was like, we're going to, I like shot in the dark was like, what if we squash this beef and we put me in the blimp? And something, it was a good idea to start that beef because like I really don't have any issues with the Goodyear blimp. First of
Hmm.
all, number one blimp in the world, like
Yeah,
easy. In your blimp power rankings, if it's not number one, you're a fool.
you're doing it wrong.
Um, yeah, I feel pretty strongly about that one. And wow, like it's the number one thing everyone wants to ask me about. No one's like, what was the national championship game like? What was Louisiana like? Everyone's like, tell me about that blimp, because I feel it's not only is it such an omnipresent feature in like American sports, like it's at all the games and stuff, but probably the mode of transportation in which you are least likely to be a passenger out of all of them. like,
Did
like there are more like uh, there are more people flying like the space shuttle than the blimp.
Yeah, that's crazy. This is such a unique thing that you were able to do. Is like the stat that you just said is more people been in a space shuttle than a blimp. Like now, I guess another question I have to ask is: did you get to go and use the bathroom in the Goodyear blimp?
Yes, they have a bathroom up there. It's
Okay.
a pretty like it's more of like, so first of all, things up there are nice. Like the seats are comfortable, they have
Okay.
heating, etc. But the bathroom it is sort of like a sardine can on a attached to a balloon. Like it's not like it's like extensive. It's pretty small. And the bathroom itself, I think, is of like it's not like the airline bathroom. Like it
Sure.
doesn't flush away. It's more of like the porta potty variety where there is a hole that your urine and feces goes into. Um, and so that part is not great. Uh,
Yeah.
and they said to me, please don't poop on the blimp. Like we have accommodations for it. However, it's a real hassle. We'll have to clean it out. We try to avoid that. So I drank coffee, a lot of coffee before, like in the hours before, and did not poop on the blimp. I was up there for about 5 hours. I wanted to make sure every solid food is out of my system before we get on there.
So you're on the blimp. What was like, a lot of with flying, you taking off and landing is always kind of a little bit of a like, hey, it's just cool, but at the same time, it's a little bit of anxiety. Like, what was more like intriguing or nerve wracking to you? Was it taking off in the blimp or landing in the blimp? Like, what was more fascinating?
The takeoff definitely because it's
Okay.
it's it's like it gets pretty vertical pretty quick, and
Yeah.
it was also just like it gets vertical at a higher grade than like your average plate, so you're kind of like that. But it's not like it's scary or anything. It's just like, oh wow, I'm really going in this antique mode of transportation. It's really happening. Like at the end, I was like, I was, I'd seen an entire Maction game. I was that seemed to be as much of a uh, spectacle. Like they have to like pretty much wrangle the blimp with uh, like and like get it to stay on the ground. Like I was at that point, I was also pretty assured of the blimp's safety because I'd been in it for 5 hours.
Sure.
Uh, the takeoff, the I'd say what the cool thing about the blimp is, like for me, the best part of the takeoff and landing is like you kind of get this like glimpse of the world where you're like close enough to see people and cars and buildings, but you're above them and you're
Yeah.
like kind of. But on a plane, it's brief and it's very fast paced, and like you've got a lot of things going on, and it's a little bit on the blimp. That's all that happens. You're just kind of floating above
Yeah.
kind of a low altitude and witnessing the world's kind of glide by you. That's what was really breathtaking about it. Just like kind of getting
Man.
to sit above the world like that.
That's an incredible experience. Would you rank that your number one experience from the trip, or is there other ones that are like pretty close up there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the rest of the ones are just like college football games, which are great, and like the reason I did it. But that's that's the one that I guess stands out because it's like it's definitely the most unique thing that I
Sure.
did. It's uh, and it's the one that people who don't care about college football can also can
Sure.
also be interested in the story. Whereas they're
Um,
not as interested in like, oh, LSU has good tailgating.
Now you got to go to the national championship game, and you also got to attend the Pop Tart Bowl and hang out with the Pop Tart mascot. So,
Mm.
which of those two experiences was more fun? Like, of course, the national
I mean,
championship game is, but like you got the Pop Tart Bowl and the mascot. Like,
I thought we all agreed the Pop Tarts Bowl was the national championship. I thought
I
that was a
thought
pact
so.
we
Yeah,
made.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was just phenomenal.
it's so weird. Like the bowl games and the playoff games are so different from college football. They're not in college football stadiums. They're not. She, can you hear my dog?
I can hear. I love it.
She's trying to get onto the couch. Here she is. Um,
Oh, there she is.
there's two of them. Yeah. Uh, they're like going to 50 college football games and then going to the bowl games is just such a different atmosphere. And
Sure.
the national championship game is just like an NFL game. It's like in an NFL stadium. It doesn't have like so many of the things that we come to know and love about college football, and it definitely doesn't have mascots.
Yes.
You know, I think that Dubs the Washington Husky was there, but
hmm
I didn't get to meet the Husky the same way I got to meet the Pop Tart. So yeah,
Sure.
definitely a vintage Pop Tart bowl.
Um, So I could talk about mascots for like a whole separate show and podcast, but if I had to ask, like I've got three mascots here, so it's kind of like a Mary fuck kill question with mascots. So
Mhm.
you've got the Oregon Duck, you've got the Pop Tart, and then you've got Perry the Pylon. So between those three, what are you going with?
Um,
It's a tough one.
I traveled around the country with Perry the Pylon.
Yeah.
I traveled around the country, so I feel like that is marriage. We
That,
were.
yeah.
I had Perry in the shotgun seat for most of the way. Um, the duck is got to be like in terms of performance. Did you say the Pop Tart was number 3?
The Pop Tart is
The 3 were the Pop Tart was
the
the other
Pop Tart, the
other
duck,
option.
and then Perry. Yeah. So yeah, you got the
Yeah, I
Pop Tart, the
actually
duck, and Perry.
have this. This is pretty easy because so I was basically already married to Perry.
Yep.
The duck is just the best performer in college. Oh, him and he brings it every day. Um, and the Pop Tart already wants to die.
That's true. That's
The
what
Pop Tart earns. So, who am I to not?
I guess my question with that
I'm not.
is,
Are you having issues hearing me, or
I could hear you. I think we lost you for a
you've
second,
been
but yeah,
disappearing?
you're back again.
Okay, good.
Okay. Yeah, I might have,
Okay.
classic internet, you know. So if
Sorry.
they use the strawberry Pop Tart, in the Pop Tart poll this year, is it going to be strawberry reincarnated, or are they going to go with a different one? That's another, like, is it going to be the brown sugar cinnamon?
They haven't said explicitly. However, like the world is watching with, you know, they they won both seasons. Like
Yep.
the amount of discussion about the Pop Tart, which wasn't even the Pop Tart Bowl wasn't even a thing that existed, and all of a sudden it became all people could talk about. I believe that they will do something even more disturbing in 2024. I
Yes.
they understand they understand how to internet and how to market, and they will. I like you're asking what flavor they're going to have, and like they are asking something else right now, something even more horrifying in a meeting somewhere. Like it's they will not disappoint. I know that.
Yeah, that's like the Pop Tart Bowl is slowly going to be like a must see bucket list item for college football fans everywhere. Even if you're not a college football fan, like,
Oh,
you
for
go on a,
sure.
hey, I went to the Pop Tart Bowl. Oh, nice. Okay. Um, so I guess we could start wrapping this up. It looks like My Sock Summer has a question in the chat. He wants to know what your favorite meal from the road trip was.
I mean, besides the LSU tailgating, favorite meal. So here's what I will say. Everyone needs to argue about like which place has um, the best barbecue, and um, I went to this barbecue place in Waco, Texas, that was awesome, and then it burned down a couple months later, which
Oh
is
shit.
the sign of a great barbecue place. They always burn down. And B, now I can say it's the best one I've ever in the world, and no one can disagree with me because you didn't get to eat there because it 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 had a fire. I believe I believe they were raising money to rebuild it. I forget the name of the place. I'm sorry, but that people were always like Texas barbecue. Also, the State Fair of Texas. I'm not sure if it counts as a
Nice.
meal, but I ate all the stupid foods there. Um,
Nice.
best fast food meal. I'm a Culver's enthusiast.
Okay.
You probably have some near you in
Oh yeah.
Chicago.
Yep. Their cheese curds are phenomenal.
Hmm.
So, okay. So Lil Yumper has a question. He said, "Did you meet any crazy fans that were even too much for you?"
Crazy fans. I don't think I feared for my safety from fans at any point.
Okay.
Um, uh, I think I tried to. I didn't spend that much time in like the student sections. That's probably where the rowdiest fans were.
Sure.
I tried to stay away because I'm in my 30s, and they should just get to do their own things and be stupid and loud and dumb on their own accord. Um, I didn't see. Did I see any fights? I saw football players fight each other. I saw a big fight at the '68 Ventures Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, between the Eastern Michigan Eagles and one of them sucker punched a player on South Alabama in the back of the head. I didn't see any fights in the stands. I saw a Kentucky fan whip a water bottle at a Clemson fan, but I don't think I witnessed any like danger. But yeah, I mean, just to be a fan, you have to be a little bit nuts, and you have to let logic go. But I think I won that competition against pretty much everyone I met. Like they're like, "Oh, you've been driving since August."
That yeah.
That is more ridiculous than me. I will say, like, people keep talking to me as if I did something ridiculous and something no one's ever done. Uh, the guy on CFB campus tour at
Yes.
Mike on Twitter, he went to 90 games.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to 62. Like, I don't know how he got to 90. So when he was telling me about how he pulled that off, I was like, yes, this is a level even beyond what I am doing.
And you guys did meet like once or twice, right? You guys crossed paths at a couple of games.
We didn't meet until bowl season, but then we kept running into each other. Yeah, we did end up hanging out and sort of talking shop and discussing how he does his road trips and how I do mine. And yeah, he goes harder than me.
Yeah, he's like, and he's already planning like, oh yeah, I've got next year lined up, and he wants to hit all the FCS stadiums. Like, dude, you're like,
yeah, I'm one and done, and he's gonna see probably every place where a college football game has ever been played.
I would say like what you did is like hiking the Appalachian Trail if you're a college football fan. That's
yeah, I mean, I literally took a car from the Pacific to the Atlantic and back, like I touched every part of the country. I set my foot down in 43 states. Like, yeah, I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest.
yes, I mean you should be. That's you lived out a dream there. Anything else you want to share or discuss that we have not talked about, or maybe any advice for any other insane people with road trip ideas like this?
I would say be smarter with your road trip. Go to a game a week. Spend 1 or 2 weeks going to games.
Okay.
You will have a great time. Don't go to 60 of them. It's not good for you. It's not good for you. I do recommend going out and seeing the sport because I mean, it's there's nothing like it, and you get such a different view of it when you see it in person. The atmosphere, the people, everything about it is incredible.
Sure.
Go to a stadium near you. If you don't have a FBS team, go to an FCS game. If you don't have an FCS game, go to a Division III game. Just go to a college football game. You'll have a great time. Don't go to 60 of them. Draw the line at try. I think 10 is a nice number.
That's a good one.
10.
Yeah, that's like I'm looking at next year. I'm like, I think I could
Try
make it
5.
to. I can make it to like 2 or 3 next year. I think I'll
That's
be pretty
great.
happy. Yeah, I'm excited. Like
Great, do it. That's normal.
so.
Be normal.
Anybody you want to shout out or thank, and then if you want to plug any of your social media accounts and stuff, feel free, fire away.
My wife,
Yeah.
number one. my dog is now like
Yes.
like sitting
Oh,
on my.
beautiful.
So I guess him too. Um, Plugging my social. If you're on YouTube watching this, just go and look up Road Rodge on YouTube. That's I'm going to be putting out the videos in the next few weeks or
Sweet.
months or extended period of time. Uh, I wanted to put one up every week, and I did for the first 5 weeks of the year, and then I realized that I was driving all the time and I couldn't do it, and uh, so hopefully even you'll still watch it even though all of the results of the games are publicly available. You can see who won the national championship. I still think the experience was special, and
Absolutely.
I hope the videos are fun. So if you're already hanging out here on YouTube, go ahead and give me a subscribe over there.
Yeah, definitely subscribe. We like to use a term called smash the like button on the videos, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I haven't said that in a while because like I said, I haven't been posting the videos, but I need to get my terminology down.
There we go. Well, hey, thanks. I appreciate you spending an hour of your time, especially during a Northwestern
Come on,
game.
man.
It was
Well,
awesome.
They had a shot for the win in regulation, but it looks like they're going to lose in overtime.
Dadgummit. All right. Well, thanks again. I appreciate it. Follow
having me.
Rodger on all the on Twitter, on YouTube, all of the other good things out there, and I appreciate you taking the time. Until next time, we'll see you in the on the socials.
See you guys in the Big Ten.
All right, that's right. All right, thanks, Rodger. See ya. All right, that was Rodger Sherman. That was incredible. What a legendary story that was to share his experiences. I appreciate everybody in the comments section joining along. I'll be back on here probably again the next week or 2 weeks. We have a February National Signing Day where we will probably just talk about that. If there's any crazy coaching carousel changes, I think those are done for now. Moving forward during the spring season, we'll have all the spring ball. So we'll have all the spring games. We'll touch base on that. The transfer portal is going to get up and running again after the spring games. So just stay tuned in. During the offseason, there is no offseason for college football, really. It's year-round nowadays with just always in the news cycle monthly with different things going on. We'll touch base with the NFL draft as well. We'll just keep this going about twice a month or so, give or take, in the quote-unquote off-season. So stay tuned in. You can follow me on Twitter at Brew Hand Luke. Follow the podcast account at GR8FUL Ducks CFB. Obviously, it's all things college football, emphasis with the Oregon Ducks and the Big Ten being in the Midwest. Just stay tuned into the socials. And that's all I got for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you, Rodger. Peace. See you next time. And